So the first wave of the exclusive line has hit stores and stock has been, well, all over the place. For Walmart Canada, almost every store has been renovating and changing right as this wave hit, so finding the desirable figures has been a bit of an event for me. And for other countries that don't have Walmarts, they get to be exclusives in other places like Smith's or Kmart, etc. And they stock pretty well. I asked on Twitter and people showed off their Velocitron stock and it's honestly not that bad. Stocking job aside, all the figures eventually made it into my hands via pre-orders, in-store hunting, and Ultra Primal, thank you. So how is the first wave of this exclusive and kind of highly sought after line? Before we get started in this video, it's brought to you by Try Treats. Try Treats is a food subscription service that sends world snacks to your door once a month, changing the country every time so it doesn't get boring. And this time we got snacks from England, which meant I could actually eat them this time, and boy, were they good. Why do you open it like a bag of chips?
I'm trying to.
No, like tearing the side.
Because you can.
Do you need scissors?
No. I got it. There we go. There's many ways to do this. Okay.
Oh, okay.
We try it together. Yeah. Wait.
They look interesting.
They do. Here. What I think we should tell your mom that they were terrible and they don't give me any.
Oh, these are so good.
Oh, they are good.
Wow. So definitely go check them out. Links in the description below. And if you use code ThatToyGuy in all caps, you'll save 15% off your first order. And yeah, the British snacks, we liked them so much, we went on and we bought more of them. So thank you very much for sponsoring today's video. Now back onto the actual toys. It's very sort of in the middle, this line. It has a couple of bangers, a couple of figures that fall short, and then a bunch of average toys mold-wise. Decos on most of them are very well done, but as fun and enjoyable experiences go, it's okay. First though, the packaging. Deluxe and Voyagers share the same style of packaging, and boy am I glad they come packed in alt mode. I much prefer that, as it still leaves a small sense of both surprise and satisfaction getting them into robot mode for the first time. I love all the coloring on the boxes. I just think there's just too many words on the front. The leader boxes though win, they're just glorious. I've done videos on most of these already, so they will be linked below in case you want to check out those more in-depth thoughts on some of these, but I'll be going through them now and giving the Cliff's Notes, starting with Blur. When they announced that we were getting an IDW figure in 2022, the year IDW loses the license for Transformers, I was very surprised, and the toy itself looked extremely well done. And even in person, it looks nice. I like the colors, the head sculpt, the dynamic nature of the limbs, but then you take a closer look and you start to see all the 86 mold issues, coupled with the semi-consistent QC problems throughout copies, and you start to see why this is my least favorite. For starters, I'm still not a fan of the arm kibble. It still hangs off there and barely tabs in properly, while the new tooling makes it appear a bit more flush to the arms because of the front fake wheels. It still gets in the way a lot and becomes very annoying to handle. Then you have my figure's loose-ass hips, knees, and ankles. It's a floppy mess trying to get him to in any sort of pose, and he just wants to buckle at the knees. Pair that with the loose hips and ankles like I mentioned, and he just wants to do the splits constantly. Then there's the gun. Oh boy, this really annoyed me. So it's incredibly loose in the hand, it flops around and even falls out if you're simply just trying to get him into a pose. He cannot hold it straight if his arm's at an angle. And then there's the plastic. He feels so weirdly chalky and flaky. There's something about the plastic that makes it feel like a dried bar of soap, especially the paint parts, which is why they're chipping. Articulation is standard for a deluxe, but like that arm kibble, it just gets in the way a lot and flops around, making it a hassle to handle and not a fun experience. Transformation is just 86 again, with all the weird limbs and weird soapy plastic. It just doesn't feel nice to do, leading to an actually good looking alt mode. The alt mode looks very space-like and I like it. There's no wheels, which is annoying, especially considering you have these big black sections on the front that are supposed to be wheels, but they're not real and they don't even touch the ground, which kind of annoys me. But that's all I really have on Blur. He's very underwhelming and disappointing, but he looks nice. Now the next deluxe is also kind of meh, but not as meh. Road Rocket is the RC mold. It carries all the RC tropes and issues and it's just okay. But hey, at least the tolerances are better than RC. Road Rocket though, I find a bit boring. It doesn't do anything spectacular, nor does it do anything bad enough to be memorable. It's just mediocre. Paint looks nice and I like the colors. I think they suit the mold a lot better than both Flame War and RC's decos personally. I find it hard to talk about this thing though, because I'm sat here with nothing to say else, because I find it so mediocre. I like the head sculpt. Articulation is exactly the same as RC. The tolerances are better though. I don't have any gummed up joints, nor do I have any tabbing issues like I did with RC. Everything just works. Transformation is still too complex for how small this figure is with the legs and the side panels, blah blah blah. But the bike looks great in red. Again, this deco suits the mold a lot more. The red matching though isn't the greatest on those black panels painted red, and I noticed the blue transparent plastic is also like Burnout, where it's a different shade from RC. But yeah, not much else to say. She just kind of exists. Clampdown, I think, has some of the most controversy in his deco other than Scourge. There's no red. Now, I personally am not bothered by that. While I think the color they chose is a bit plain, I'm still here for the new takes, but I know that the lack of red does bother some people, so it is worth pointing out. I believe the reason they said was so that you don't get confused with Red Alert if you aren't a super hardcore fan, but the people who really wanted Clampdown do suffer from that choice. Also, on a side note, at the time of writing this, both Amazon Japan and Walgreens Online have restocked Red Alert for those who missed out, and also Amazon Japan ships to like almost every place, so you still have a chance to get Red if you missed out on him. I like Clampdown though. Mine had fused hips out of the box, but I fixed that. It's just the sideswipe mold again, but that's always been a solid mold. It's like the deluxe you want to strive to be better than, but you also don't want to be worse than it. It's average, it's in the middle. It has the same weapons as Red Alert. You can swap the arms and legs because the white does match out if that's something you want, if you do want the red on Clampdown and you're okay with sacrificing a Red Alert. All the joints feel solid on this guy, and the articulation is your very standard Siege offering, but it's still solid as a rock. Transformation is also, well, solid as a rock. It's so easy, my 7-year-old cousin can do it. I bought him a deep cover and he loves that thing. It's just, a lot of it just tucks away and flips around to make this really nice looking car mode actually. But this deco here just looks nicer than Red's for me. The front end especially, just I think it looks better than Red Alert's. Everything else is pretty much the same, however. The paint matching on the different plastics and the white in some areas, I noticed it does throw me off a bit. It's not exact and it looks weird. Still cool though. Don't know why he's short packed, but I have heard Wave 2 is supposed to be getting more Clampdowns in case you missed out. Oh, poor Cosmos. This thing has so many people freaking out because of how scarce he is. Guys, you can still get him. Takara is making more and releasing them later this year, so you can buy it from Takara. Apparently Hasbro is releasing just cases of Cosmos to make up for it as well. That apparently, I'm not 100% on that. And the whole scarcity thing is Walmart's fault because they're the ones who put the order for how many units they want. So if you want to yell at somebody, yell at Walmart. Cosmos, though, has his issues. First of which being the paint on the arms can be easily scratched off if you rotate the bicep while the elbows are bent. Then there's the loose shoulder that's on a lot of other people's copies, not just mine. Then you got the lost details in the bright yellow plastic, the paint matching, the backpack. I just am less excited for this the more I mess with it. His posing's fine, being that he's like the same articulation as Clampdown essentially. He can do a lot with it, and that little flag thing he comes with is a nice touch, I will say. Transformation though is a bit of a faff. Yes, I know how to properly rotate the head around. People thought I was doing it wrong on purpose, but that was just me literally demonstrating to you where the thing splits. It's just, yeah, but it still splits in half. Alt mode is really nice, but mine has this unnatural gap on the back, not present on a lot of other copies, not to mention the back plate likes to come off every now and then. I'm disappointed because of how this thing was on most people's wish lists, including my own, and I was let down by it. Still better than Road Rocket and Blur though. Okay, just buy this one. That's all I really have to say. I think it's incredible and you need one. This is one I'm going to say go watch the video for that I made because I can't express in this small timestamp I'm giving the deluxes how much I love this figure. I think it's the best deluxe out of the bunch. Posing's great, transformation's great, color separation's great, the subtle color choices and like differences, that's still the same thing as separation technically, are great. Weapons are great, head's great. It's just the Skids mold, but better. So go watch that video if you want to hear me gush about this more, because it's really nice. Now we move on to the Voyagers, and we get 2 of them. 2 I wasn't really expecting. I'm still shocked that this exists. Like, bruh, really? I'm so glad this does, and it looks the part. It's just a show model in my hands, and I love it. It can still hold a cyber key, take that Metroplex, and it's just wonderful. Much better than the old deluxe, because that thing was just poo. The plastic is thicker than the average figure. There's more paint than usual. The engineering is really clever. The clear wheels, glad they kept those from the original. It's all nice. Articulation is slightly above standard with the forward and backward ankles and the wrist swivels, so she can hold a pose if she doesn't constantly fall over, because mine's got loose feet. Pain. Her transformation, like I said, is clever. It does things you wouldn't really expect, leading to a car mode that's just awesome. Again, this one I also recommend going to check out my original video on this because I can't express in this little timestamp how much I like this. This surprised the hell out of me. I've owned both Grapple and Inferno and thought Grapple was poo and Inferno was meh. Hauler is the most solid of the bunch. The green makes the details pop more, and they even painted the hydraulics in segments. That detail just makes me really happy. Everything just looks and feels nice on this guy. The green is nowhere near as neon in person, which I like. It's less in your face and more of just, hey, I'm green. His screaming face is also funny. His articulation is awesome. The ankle articulation I like, and the super solid joints. I like displaying him with the arm up as well, so it gives him a little bit more of a dynamic look. And it adds more articulation technically. Transformation is like a carbon copy of G1, and I do find that a bit boring on a lot of toys that do it, but that does mean I can do it in my sleep, so it makes a great fidget toy. And the alt mode looks less like a bunch of limbs than it did on Grapple and Inferno. It's the green. It just helps a lot with the details you're supposed to see and hides the ones you aren't supposed to see at first glance. It's great. Definitely worth picking up because it's a fun and enjoyable figure. Oh, and they used the correct pegs this time, so there's no risk of that breaking. Now we get the leader of this line, the one leader, Scourge. I love this figure. This is the best Velocitron toy. It just is for me. I've already done a video gushing about him, but I'm going to do it again because, bro, it's amazing. I love the new deco. It feels and looks less plain over the old one. But if you like the old one more, Toy Hacks does have you covered now, so there is that. Well, mostly. There's still some things I couldn't replace, but that's fine. It just looks and feels awesome. The shoulders are weird, yes, and the legs I think are a tad too long. I think the waist needed to be all black to fix that issue. But it still is a lot of fun to mess with. And you get the little battle platform with the trailer. It's nice. His transformation does a lot you wouldn't expect, which keeps you on your toes. Love the torso flips and how the arms work. Truck is just perfect. Mine had a small warp tab, but I fixed that, and now it's just baller. I love it. Trailer looks awesome. Truck is menacing. It's fantastic. And that's why, in my opinion, this is the best Velocitron toy out of the whole line. But in the end, the entire line of Velocitron, at least the first wave, has its ups and downs. If I were to lump the toys together that I would recommend and the toys that I wouldn't recommend to go together, it would leave Cosmos in the middle. Because, like, I don't know if it's really worth trying to track down because of all the issues, and it's not just my copy that has those issues. So yeah, Scourge, Override, Hauler, Clampdown, Burnout, and maybe Cosmos I would recommend, but Road Rocket and Blur, Blur especially is pretty bad. Road Rocket is just mediocre at best. I picked up those two because I figured if I'm going to go all in on these, I might as well get the last two. But those are the ones I would recommend you pick up if you see them in stores. But that's my look at the entirety of Wave 1 of Velocitron. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.